Today we're going to tackle a really interesting topic on how drugs are brought to market. Specifically, we're going to explore how drugs get developed and approved through Health Canada, and then we're going to look at how the provinces and territories then decide what drugs get covered and reimbursed, and eventually how these drugs get into the hands of patients and their role in this process. Joining me in studio today is Suzanne Solven. Suzanne is the Associate VP of Audit, Investigations and Quality Assurance with Pacific Blue Cross. Prior to that, Suzanne was the Deputy Registrar with the College of Pharmacists of BC and the Executive Director with BC Pharmacare. She is also a trained pharmacist. Welcome, Suzanne.
Thank you.
So I thought today we'd start off maybe with a sort of a broad question. Obviously, here in Canada, before drugs are approved for use, they go through a very rigorous process. Can you take us through some of the key steps involved in that process?
Absolutely. So for a drug to become available for sale in Canada, a manufacturer has to conduct rigorous clinical trials for specific indications that they're looking to get approval for, and then submit that clinical dossier to Health Canada. Health Canada is a branch of the federal government, and so they're responsible for looking at determining whether the drug is efficacious, which means does the drug really work in the indication that it's being sought for, as well as is it safe? So we want to make sure that the drug is safe for people, and it's always this balance between balance and risk of safety and efficacy. The other thing that Health Canada looks at is also the quality of the manufacturing that takes place. So Health Canada actually goes around the world and inspects facilities to make sure that there's quality in the manufacturing so that the public can be assured from batch to batch that it's safe, that it's clean, it's sterile if necessary, and that you have consistency of the medication. So the manufacturer submits this clinical dossier to Health Canada, and then Health Canada takes time, and it's reams and volumes of scientific information that they have to look at to determine has the manufacturer actually proved that the drug works and it's safe. So it goes through that large process, and that can take sometimes quite a bit of time depending on the volume of material.
We may be talking years here.
You could be talking years, but usually a year or so, maybe 18 months, something like that.
And then, so through this process, there's obviously sort of the initial testing, but there's also something you were saying around sort of the clinical trials.
Exactly. So we usually refer to them as phases. So there's phase 1, 2, 3, and there's actually a phase 4 once the drug comes to market. But a manufacturer goes through a series and progression of trials, and so they'll try it out first in limited populations to determine is the drug actually effective, and are there any serious safety signals, because they want to make sure that the drug doesn't have anything that's going to cause some serious consequences for people. So once it gets through the first and second phase and third phase, it's trialed in human populations, and in clinical trials, which is really important for some of the things that we'll discuss later, it's in very limited populations, because to be rigorous in clinical trials, you have to control all the different variables to be able to actually prove does the drug work? And so there's various protocols they have to go through to control the different variables there. And so it gets to phase 3, and they're really controlling, one, the indication, which is what that means is, are they trying to show that it lowers blood pressure or lowers cholesterol or treating an infection? So it's a specific indication that they're trialing. And then they limit those populations for individuals that have the specific concern. But they're also looking at, do patients have other what they call comorbidities, which means do they have diabetes, do they have renal disease, do they have other kinds of conditions that could impact the response to drugs.
So that's really great information, Suzanne. We want to deep dive into that when we come back. So please stay tuned and don't go anywhere.